Hello and welcome to my review of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, a 1979 novel that compiled and expanded a number of episodes and concepts of an earlier radio series. The success of the series launched a longer and ongoing series of books and a cult TV show. It put ideas like the paranoid android 42 and others into the wider culture, and much later inspired a movie with Bill Nighy. Well, it can't all be sunshine and roses. The story starts with Arthur Dent trying to prevent his house being demolished to make way for a new bypass, only for the entire Earth to be destroyed for a freeway of the more intergalactic sort. This is the sort of beginning that would be arresting enough, even without the chief earthly bureaucrat's flashbacks to his distant ancestor Genghis Khan. All in all, the opening is the perfect balance of relatability and insanity, and should guarantee that the reader's attention will be captured. The concept is grand in scale. Ford Prefect, Arthur's alien friend counting down the planetary doom, adds tension, and the petty bureaucrat struggling with ancestral urges of the Golden Horde is absolutely perfect satire. From a literary standpoint, the opening to this book is so enormously successful that it perhaps overshadows everything that follows, at least a little bit. But it is the perfect moment for those on the fence to reflect on their experience so far, because if you didn't enjoy this section of the book, I can't imagine you're going to enjoy any part of it. Dent, along with his friend Ford, who is a researcher for the Hitchhiker's Guide of the title, hitch a ride on a Vogon spaceship. The Vogons are unpleasant, stupid, and stubborn enough to reject evolution. This combination of spite and petty-mindedness makes them perfect to run the galaxy civil service. Meanwhile, Zaphod Beeblebrox, the president of the galaxy, is at the launch of a brand new type of spaceship, and he decides to steal it. This is fortunate because its galaxy-bending improbability drive comes in very handy when Ford and Arthur are ejected by the Vogons into space. The drive of the ship makes improbable things happen, and it picks up Ford and Dent. Also on board with Zaphod is Trillian, another human and a passing acquaintance of Dent's, and Marvin the paranoid android. Zaphod, without truly knowing why that intrigue is left for the sequels, is on a quest to find a society of planetary builders on their own planet called Magrathea. The planet, when they arrive, seems deserted, but when the others explore and leave Dent behind, he meets Slarty Bartfast, one of the designers. He reveals that the Earth was actually a computer built by mice, super beings so intelligent that one of their 4D chess methods of studying humans is to perform lab experiments for them. The Magratheans built this enormous computer for the mice after the previous computer, called Deep Thought, who they built to answer the question, what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, returned the answer 42. This moment of craziness is the book's second great concept, and any book carrying the twin ideas of the Earth being destroyed for a bypass and this application of cold computer logic, perhaps even a lack of computer logic, to a question of theology is going to be a force to be reckoned with. The computer's unsatisfactory answer was the culmination of many millennia of processing, and Deep Thought proposed the new computer to answer the second question of, if 42 is the answer, what was the question? You can't help but feel that this counter question, will go on forever without an answer that is acceptable to anyone, similar to asking, if God is good, why does he let bad things happen? Believers will never accept an atheist's answer, and atheists will never accept a believer's answer. In 1979, the computerized age was nigh, and automation and AI continues to polarize thought in the same way. Beneath the silliness of the portrayal here is Adams at his most prescient Arthur C. Clarke. But sadly, for the mice, the Earth was destroyed 5 minutes before its response was due. Arthur Dent hopes that this might mean that the Earth is to be rebuilt, but the mice have other ideas. Because his brain was on the planet as it was destroyed, they reason that the answer will be in his brain if they can just extract it. In the finale, which is probably the weakest part of the book, the mice try to decide how they can exploit the failure of their experiment for financial gain, while Dent and Co dodge some police that are an undeveloped parody of a cop show. With Slarty Bartfast's help, they escape into the wider galaxy, leaving enough plot threads unresolved to promise the future series. I've read The Hitchhiker's Guide a couple of times before, once in my early teens and in my early 20s as well, and it being a good 20 years since the last time, it was due a revisit. As mentioned, the closest thing to a disappointment is the finale. Early on, the book satirises bureaucracy and especially the civil service. Dent is here the most effective everyman, battling the frustrations and nonsense of petty rulemakers, even though his own self-focus, something that in truth we share as a species, is what has caused him to miss the plans for the bypass and not notice it is about to result in the destruction of his home. The admonitions of the civil servant are echoed entirely by the Vogons before the Earth's destruction. In what follows, Dent becomes more and more passive, relegated to a mere observer, which is interesting because that's quite explicitly Ford's job as a correspondent for the Hitchhiker's Guide. His passivity reduces his role as an everyman somewhat, with Trillian taking something of that role on. As Zaphod amps up his zany behaviour, it is Trillian offering the critique, or at least rolling her eyes. In a book as short as 179 pages, this is a pretty crowded cast. Though Adams pulls it off, I couldn't help but feel that the promise of the sequels helps with that somewhat. But as crazy as the plot undoubtedly is, the most fun in the novel is the absurdities that the guide relates of the wider galaxy, often comparing the crazier aspects of those with the prosaic and earthbound. There's a real joy in those, and in the odd footnote too. There's a whole wealth of influence at play here. Clearly there are parodies of Asimov in Marvin, the exaggerated characteristics of the galaxy comedically juxtaposed against the more regal science-first novels of somebody like Arthur C. Clarke. And all of that is woven through with an absurdist flavour that would be familiar to fans of shows like The Goons or Monty Python. But if the influences on Adams are many, those influenced by him are equally legion, if not more so, putting him at the centre of an epic web of ideas and sources that perhaps explains the novel's reach beyond the sci-fi genre. Of the characters, it is the early relatability of Dent being thrust into a situation he hasn't attempted to prepare himself for that makes him a relatable protagonist. Ford Prefect is the narrator's mouthpiece, explaining the plot as it moves along, and the two are far more dynamic when they're on their own. However, Zaphod Beeblebrox is zany and thoughtless. I enjoyed him far more this time round than when I read it before, perhaps because I just remembered less of him than the others, perhaps because he just reminded me of a friend. Trillian assumes Dent's role as the more relatable character. She's slightly more intelligent, often just more involved, and is a good foil for Zaphod. The last member of the crew, Marvin, is often reduced to the odd dry or dark comment or complaint, and though this sparse use does make you want more from him, he often contributes laughs and chuckles into the main narrative. Overall, such is its impact on the wider culture that The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would be impossible not to recommend. It is not just a book for science fiction fans, but one that all lovers of literature ought to seek out. The story is the sort of bonkers that only Spike Milligan could rival, and its zanier side will appeal to younger readers, while the cutting edge of the satire will appeal to the more older readers. Arthur feels at times like a stand-in on a roller coaster, but the ride is also worth experiencing. Marvin, Trillian and Zaphod all have their own moments of inspiration, but the best character is clearly the guide itself, offering life and depth to a universe that is well worth exploring. My only criticism is that this damn cover is off-centre, a crime worse than Vogon poetry. Other editions, of course, are available. Enjoy one of them as soon as you can, because you never know when the planet's going to end.
Sexington University is just your everyday, typical university. Nothing out of the ordinary ever happens here. There's no alien attacks, no homicidal houseplants, no meteor showers, no Cthulhu cults, no fatal field trips, and absolutely no alien professors. Enroll today and get this fabulous free pen.